All right, let's get started. Hello, everyone. I am Chris Kelly, founder and CEO of Upwave, and thank you for joining us today. So we at Upwave could not be more excited to be hosting this event today. Like you, we've seen various technology trends hit our industry over the last decade or so, but none nearly as powerful as generative AI. And of course, we have launched dozens and dozens of product capabilities and features over the years, but honestly, none have gotten the holy cow reaction that our AI campaign insights reports have gotten from customers in alpha testing. So I hope that you are as excited as we are. So yes, to not bury the lead, today's event will include the launch of our AI campaign insights reports. You may know these things variably as wrap reports or mid-campaign reports, etc. Basically, a slide deck telling you what happened in an advertising campaign and what you learned. And anyone familiar with these reports associates them with very high costs and very slow turnaround times. So in the demo portion of today's event, we will show you how Gen AI completely automates generating and writing these insights. So with the click of a button, you'll get an instant report downloadable from your Upwave dashboard. Now, we know our industry is bombarded with AI buzzword bingo press releases just waving their hands about some vague impact from AI. So we are quite excited to show you an actual feature that you can use right in your Upwave dashboard. Yet I do recognize most of you joining today are thinking about the future impact of AI on our industry in advertising and advertising measurement. So we'll first spend some time on the beginning of this event sharing a bit of our longer term perspective on how AI will impact media and advertising and ad measurement. So in a moment, I'll invite our CTO, George London, to the virtual stage to share some of his vision. And then we will show you some of those AI campaign insights reports I was just bragging about and share how our overarching AI capabilities will allow Upwave to keep developing additional AI features. And then we'll bring on some customers and industry friends from and Westwood One to discuss how they are leveraging AI for ad measurement. And finally, we'll of course close with any questions from the audience. So feel free to use the Q&A feature in the webinar today. So again, thank you for joining. And now I'll invite George London to join me. Hi,
Hey there,
George.
Chris.
How are you doing,
Excited
George?
to be here.
Thanks.
Doing great.
Excited for this chat. All right, so I will start, George, with maybe a bit of a devil's advocate question, which is, of course, that it seems like a million people have been saying AI will change marketing for over a decade, and probably hundreds of companies would say that they've already been using AI in their product for years. So why don't you tell our audience how what we're talking about today is different from all that previous hype?
That is a great question, Chris. And it all comes down to what we mean when we use the term AI. As you may know, next year the term artificial intelligence will be turning 70 years old. And over the decades, it's been used to mean many different things. But mostly AI has ended up meaning whatever human-like capabilities computers have gained most recently. Now, in the 2000s and early 2010s, that mostly meant machine learning and predictive analytics. Computers became increasingly able to apply statistical inference to discover patterns and then use those patterns to make predictions about new data points. I call that type of machine learning predictive AI. And it has been so widely deployed in advertising media that the targeting and delivery of nearly every ad involves some amount of machine learning. And indeed, Upwave has always used predictive AI in the causal inference algorithms that drive our core BrandLift product. But as we all know, the hype over the last year has been driven by the new set of capabilities that the industry is calling generative AI, or Gen AI for short. Gen AI is the combination of deep learning algorithms with vast data sets of text and images to create systems that are capable, under the right circumstances, of writing and even reasoning at the level of an 80th percentile human. Since its release, we've all been blown away by the power of ChatGPT to answer questions that would have previously taken hours of research. And yet, despite the proliferation of impressive tech demos and ambitious AI startups, generative AI has yet to actually have much observable impact on media and advertising. The problem lives in the gap between demo and application. Midjourney, for example, can generate amazingly beautiful images, but if you type banner ad for fast food, for example, into Midjourney, you'll get an unusable result. And similarly, if you ask ChatGPT to generate a media plan for a new fast food campaign, the results will be intriguing, but they will not be usable. Luckily, those disappointing initial results don't mean that generative AI is useless. They just mean that, like any other technology, getting the most out of Gen AI requires careful and deliberate engineering. So before we move on, I want to introduce a simple equation. Gen AI plus predictive AI plus domain expertise equals magic. Or a bit more specifically, if you ask ChatGPT generic questions, you're going to get generic low-value answers. On the other hand, as we're going to show you today, there is a recipe for getting extremely impressive and useful results from generative AI. First, you need to provide the AI with timely, specific, high-signal, well-synthesized data about the real world. In Upwave's case, that's the performance data that we already produced through our predictive AI pipeline. Second, you need to ask very carefully crafted questions that both embed that data and encode adequate domain-specific best practices and context. AI engineers call this second step prompt engineering. And in the demo we're going to show you today, there's actually 23 different, very carefully crafted prompts that go into the generation of every single report. But if you do these steps right, then the results are nothing short of magic.
I love it. No one's going to say no to some magic. So sounds like, George, you are expecting Gen AI to have a much bigger impact on media and advertising than what we've seen so far, say over the last 18 or 24 months.
I am indeed expecting a much bigger impact. And to illustrate how, let's do a quick exercise. I want you all to pause and think about the last 10 digital ads that you saw. I'll wait. All right. I'm going to guess that you barely, if at all, even remember the last 10 ads you actually saw. And that isn't surprising. At Upwave, we measure ad recall all the time, and we know it's very hard for even sophisticated advertisers to drive consistent results. And yet we all know that advertising does work. But I suspect few of you would disagree that overall, the majority of impressions that are delivered simply have no discernible effect. And that's despite our industry having collectively spent billions of dollars on building sophisticated tools to collect and apply oceans of data to targeted advertising. So in a nutshell, the biggest impact that Gen AI is going to have on advertising is it is going to make it vastly easier to make good use of the data that we have already collected. I'll say more later about how exactly this is going to work in practice, but staying high level for now, multiple research papers over the last year have shown a striking effect from Gen AI. When it's deployed across teams, it helps increase the average performance of the team, in particular by helping the performance of all members of the team converge towards the performance of the highest performing member of the team. I expect a very similar effect will occur when Gen AI becomes more widely deployed in advertising. Today, the top 1% of ad campaigns are extremely effective, whereas the average ad campaign is not extremely effective. And in the future, all ad campaigns will perform as well as today's top 1%. That will happen specifically because AI will allow us to understand deeply what makes those top 1% of campaigns excel, and it will allow us to apply that no longer so secret sauce to every campaign we run. It will take a few years for all that to happen, but once it does, we will get to live in a world where you'll have a harder time forgetting the last 10 ads you saw than you did remembering them today. And that increase in ad performance has a crucial economic side effect. As advertising becomes more effective, it becomes more effective for businesses to advertise. That increase in effectiveness will more than justify the comparatively minor costs of conducting the ubiquitous measurement necessary to apply Gen AI, meaning it'll be a no-brainer to measure and optimize every campaign you run. And even more importantly for media companies, it will mean that the prices that brands will be willing to pay for ad impressions will rise, probably dramatically. And that means that sellers of ad inventory will be able to charge much higher CPMs, which advertisers will grumble about, but still happily pay. And that means, in short, a golden age for businesses who are able to use better advertising to add customers faster, means a golden age for advertising agencies who execute that advertising It means a golden age for media companies who will receive a geyser of advertising cash.
Well, a golden age of advertising and a geyser of cash for media companies, especially anyone in ad sales, sounds pretty darn good. So, George, you saying it's all sunshine and roses from here on out?
Well, Chris, not quite. I do think the next several years are going to be very good ones for the people at this event. But unfortunately, I do not believe that the good times are here to stay. There's a counterintuitive rule in technology that the very best version of any product is typically released shortly before the entire product category becomes obsolete. You could get a beautiful BlackBerry during the first years of the iPhone, or a beautifully streamlined tri-masted clipper ship during the first years of steam-powered shipping, sorry. Similarly, the perfection of targeted, personalized advertising is likely to coincide with the beginning of the obsolescence of targeted advertising as we know it today. And the underlying reason will be that AI capabilities do not and will not stand still. Advertising relies on the basic premise that in a complex world, consumers cannot be aware of, much less fully and rationally consider, all of the options available in each of their purchasing decisions. So consumers make emotional, intuitive selections from within a small consideration set that you're trying to become a part of. As AI becomes both smarter and cheaper, it will erode those premises. Unlike a human, AI will be aware of every option. And unlike a human, AI can make a fully rational evaluation of all of those options. And it can even incorporate a detailed knowledge of an individual consumer's complex and even emotional preferences. That means that in the not too distant future, humans will turn to AI buyer's agents to steer all but the most trivial purchasing decisions. And in that future, there will be little point in paying to make a consumer aware of a new vodka that the AI already knows about, or in paying to place a social media ad for an addictive new mobile game that the AI will tactfully block the consumer from even installing. Marketing in general is going to have to shift from an exercise in informing consumers to an exercise in informing AI agents. And that is going to be a wrenching shift. And nor are media companies in for an easy ride. Right now, Gen AI is just a tool that can, at best, modestly increase the productivity of the content production process. In the future, AI will replace the content production process. That may take years, but it almost certainly won't take decades. And when it does happen, major media companies will find themselves competing for consumer attention with a feed of increasingly compelling AI-generated content that's dynamically personalized to each consumer individually. When writing and production prowess stop being a competitive advantage, media companies will be able to compete only through the strength of the proprietary data that underlies their own AIs and whatever intellectual property they can legally enjoin other AIs from incorporating through copyright law. Companies like Amazon that already have robust and proprietary data about shoppers and who also have a pragmatic attitude towards IP licensing are well poised to make that transition. Whereas, for example, clickbait content farms that have neither meaningful proprietary data nor emotionally resonant IP are not well positioned at all. And more unfortunately still, the increase in content competition is likely to coincide with a precipitous decline in ad revenue as consumer buying shifts towards AI agents. For symmetry's sake, I'm going to call this coming period the dark age. And it's not going to be fun for anybody impacted. But it won't last forever. Eventually, the industry and the economy will find a new equilibrium, as they always do, and something new will emerge, albeit perhaps something unrecognizably weird and different from anything we've seen up to now. But hey, this is the launch event. So let's get back to the fun stuff before marketing books me for a brand safety violation. If you're interested in hearing more about where Upwave sees the market going in the longer term, we'll be publishing an article soon that will cover these predictions in more depth. And I'll be happy to grab time with any of you one-on-one to chat if you'd like.
It's a kind offer. And yeah, I think that whole golden age thing sounded a bit more fun than the dark age for many of us on the call, but good to know what's coming and how the industry is going to change. But let's zoom in a bit and talk about what this golden age means for measurement.
Of course. So I mentioned earlier that generative AI is going to make advertising more effective, by making it easier to put data to good use. Measurement is the linchpin of that, so let's explore how all of this works. To start, let's look at reasons we've heard from customers about why it's currently hard to make good use of brand performance data. Number one, data is expensive. Brand lift data happens to be one of the most expensive types of data used in advertising measurement, and some of that is the irreducible cost of incentivizing real humans to take surveys. But actually, the majority of the underlying cost goes into the operations required to do what scientists would call instrumentation, i.e. designing, setting up, and executing the data collection process itself. Upwave has put half a decade of research and development into automating and streamlining the brand lift measurement setup process. But even today, it requires more of your time and of ours than we'd like, not to mention the time required for you to select and contract with a vendor in the first place. Number two, converting data into action requires expert labor and a lot of it. A typical brand lift study can easily generate upwards of 8,000 performance data points. Understanding in the first place what a lift data point even means requires a degree of statistical fluency. Understanding how individual data points fit together into a coherent narrative of what's happening on a campaign requires experience, context about the campaign itself, and strong analytical and communication skills. And then turning a narrative into a set of discrete actions you can actually take to improve a campaign both requires that you understand the results well enough to trust them, and it requires a strong enough familiarity with the media plan and the mechanics of ad buying to be able to actually make real changes to an in-flight campaign. Now, traditionally, the industry has given you 4 choices about how to overcome those barriers. Number one, you can pay expensive consultants to collect data and to interpret it for you. Number two, you can staff up your own small army of in-house experts. Number three, you can advertise on platforms that offer black box optimizers, usually walled gardens, where you just have to trust that they somehow have your best interest in mind and will spend your money wisely. Or number four, you can simply measure your campaigns rarely or never at all and just hope for the best. But now let me ask you to imagine a different world. Imagine a world where all types of performance data, including brand lift, are so affordable that they move from an occasional nice to have to something you can easily afford to attach to every campaign. And imagine a world where interpreting and understanding that data stops requiring expert effort and instead becomes something available completely and universally for free. That's what the coming Gen AI wave will deliver. Marketing has always talked about delivering the right message to the right person. Gen AI will tell you if your message is the right one, and if it's not, it will help you understand what message would work better. Gen AI will tell you if your targeting was right, and if it's not, it will tell you how to target better. And if you have questions about either of those things, Gen AI will answer those questions patiently and thoroughly to your full satisfaction. In the future, you'll still need to pay for measurement, but you'll get all the rest for free.
I love it. This is quite an exciting world. And of course, I did promise the people a launch event today, George. So let's pivot to what Upwave is launching today.
Let's do some launching, Chris. As I've discussed, Upwave has a very big vision for how generative AI and measurement will work together to make advertising much more effective and profitable. So I'm delighted to introduce you today to Baze. Baze is Upwave's AI agent that over the course of the coming years will help you with more and more components of conducting the measurement and optimization you need to ensure that your brand campaigns you run consistently reach that top percentile of performance. Like many AI systems, Baze is starting out small and will snowball in capabilities as we train and engineer him to incorporate your feedback. But I'm super excited that today we can finally reveal the first tool in Baze's toolbox, Upwave's AI Campaign Insights reports. To our knowledge, these reports are the first real, practical, useful application of generative AI anywhere in advertising measurement. These reports are fully AI-generated PowerPoints that summarize the performance, highlights, and actionable optimization opportunities for each campaign you measure through Upwave. We will be starting the rollout today with a closed beta program. Once you join the beta, a button will appear in your dashboard that allows you to trigger the live generation of an AI Insights report for any of your live or completed campaigns that have reached reportable sample. If you want, you can generate a new report every day that'll incorporate all your latest data. While these reports don't yet surpass the quality you'd get from a team of dedicated human analysts, we ourselves have been surprised pleasantly by how compelling we've been able to make even the first version. Over time, new and better large language models will be released, and those models will be even more knowledgeable and even better at following instructions and applying common sense. And over time, as we get your feedback on these reports, we'll refine our understanding of what great analysis looks like, and we'll encode that understanding into better prompts, which will lead to better reporting. So in short, the demo I'm about to show you is the worst these reports will ever be. They're going to improve from here, and they're going to improve fast. And in my humble opinion, they're already pretty darn good.
I'm excited. All right, George, let's take a look. Can you walk our audience through how this works?
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, this is going to show up initially as a button on your Upwave dashboard. You're seeing here a demo dashboard of some of the demo campaigns that we have. We're going to talk today about Flower Fresh, a demo campaign for a fictional laundry detergent brand. But you can see right there in the corner, the button that says Download AI Campaign Insights Report. You click that button and get this window that lets you request to generate a slide deck. When you click the big blue button, we will start generating. The AI will start live processing and generating all your data, which takes a few minutes because it's working hard. And then in a few minutes, you will get an email from Upwave that says your campaign report is available for download. You'll just click the link in the email and you will get a PowerPoint download, which I will walk you through now. So this is the first slide of the AI Campaign Insights report for Flower Fresh. Starts with a title slide, and then it's got a few different sections. The first is an introductory section with a bit of an overview of our brand lift methodology and information about the survey itself, such as the flight dates and the sample size, which you can see on the next slide. Then we're going to have a summary of key findings on the next slide, aka an executive summary. There's a lot of text here, and I know that you can read, but I'm just going to read one of these bullet points so that you don't have to. So this is all text 100% written and generated by the AI itself without any human intervention on this presentation. So here, for example, we've got campaign performance highlights. The Flower Fresh campaign is achieving statistically significant positive results at the 95% level for consideration and purchase intent. And then quite a bit more detail about what's going on in the campaign. Then we've got a few slides that give you an overall overview of the campaign performance, such as the overall here, where you can see different KPIs and how the campaign is performing against them. And then a similar overview of every target audience that you've configured in your Upwave dashboard. Then the AI is going to find some campaign highlights for you. The AI is going to actually apply some common sense and knowledge of the brand itself to try to find cuts and KPI combinations that both have strong performance and that seem relevant to the particular brand that you're advertising. So in this case, this is a laundry detergent brand. So the AI is going to highlight strong performance among primary household purchasers of laundry detergent. Next, it's going to point out people who buy a few times a month. Next, it's going to talk about the strong performance in men, because this was actually a male-focused laundry detergent campaign. It's going to call out next some third-party audiences here that were used by the advertiser to target better, and got some excellent performance across all of those. Next, it'll call out, for example, some strong channels. This campaign did particularly well on CTV and on the next slide, mobile video. And also a first-party audience really killed it here. So these are some highlights that you can be proud of on your campaign, but we don't want to stop there. We also want to give you recommendations for what you can actually do to improve the performance of your in-flight campaign. So a little bit about our performance indicator methodology, and then we get right into the recommendations. So as I mentioned earlier, this campaign was performing well on video. So the AI is going to notice that and tell you CTV, pre-roll video, and mobile are performing well, and recommend that you heavy up on those tactics. And in this case, try to move away if you can from in-app display, which you can see is significantly underperforming relative to the campaign average. The AI is going to try to focus on your primary KPIs, which in this case was consideration, and give you several recommendations for how you can improve consideration by focusing here on particular TV shows that were working well. Next one on TV networks that were doing well for you. and a number of other options. In this case, two different creative concepts, one of them strongly outperforming the other. The AI notices that and recommends that you heavy up on the stronger performing creative, and then a few other things that I won't walk through in detail. And that's it. Again, this is 100% AI generated, not touched by a human, but that said, it is a fully editable PowerPoint presentation, meaning that if the AI says anything that you don't like, you are totally free to reword anything, to delete slides, to move them around, to add your own slides. Our goal here is to save you as much time as possible in getting to the understanding you need of what's going on, to communicate to your stakeholders, or to take action. And we would love to hear your feedback about what we can add to this presentation to make it even more useful to you.
I love it. That is already so useful and so powerful. I know this firsthand. I've probably talked to hundreds and hundreds of marketers and media agency analytics professionals and publishers who want insights reports, but they do not like the high costs, usually 5-figure cost, and the days and days, if not weeks and weeks of waiting for these to be developed in the old world. So I'd love to see this, and I know the market will love it too. So George, you mentioned a bit of this before the demo, but what else could this technology be used for? What other AI applications?
So glad you asked, Chris. What I've showed you today is the first application available from our Bayes agent. It certainly won't be the last. Upwave's mission as a company is to someday measure every impression on every brand campaign. We believe we'll do that by continuing to make measurement more affordable and continuing to make measurement more useful. Generative AI is going to be pivotal to both prongs of that strategy. We'll have more to announce soon, but we are already exploring integrating Bayes to even further reduce the friction and effort in campaign setup, for example, by auto-generating questionnaires that are both consistent with your brand and campaign objectives and are also consistent with rigorous best practices for statistical research. And in the not too distant future, that means it will be possible to go from a media plan to an actionable measurement plan in the click of a button. We're also exploring ways to make your results even more interpretable and actionable. That may involve proactively providing you with extremely clear, specific, and timely optimization recommendations tailored to your particular media strategy. It may perhaps involve offering Bayes as an interactive research assistant directly in your dashboard. It might even involve finding ways to move upstream beyond media planning and to help you understand the key factors that are driving your campaign's performance, like, for example, the intersection between creative and media. Ultimately, all of deep learning and machine learning in general are built on top of a surprisingly simple concept, the feedback loop. AIs are trained by making predictions, comparing the predictions to real data, and iteratively adjusting those predictions until they match reality. In the long term, Upwave's AI will work the same way. We will help you improve campaign performance by predicting campaign performance, measuring what happened, and then telling you exactly how you can improve in order to get those dramatic performance improvements that I mentioned earlier are going to bring about the advertising golden age.
I love it. I love all of this. Golden age, here we come. And I definitely think that Bayes and its features like AI campaign insights reports will certainly be the most consequential capability that Upwave has released in a while. But enough of hearing from just Upwavers. It's time to hear from our customers and industry friends. So I will now turn the mic over to Upwave's EVP of Customer Success and Analytics, John Stewart, who will lead a conversation with a couple industry experts who have piloted our new AI campaign insights reports. John Stewart, over to you.
Thanks, Chris. And thanks everyone for attending. Hopefully that demonstration got you all super excited for what's to come with campaign insights reports. So our representative from Uber couldn't make it today, but I do have the pleasure of introducing two industry experts in measurement analytics, and both of them have experience using Upwave's AI for reporting. So I'd like to introduce Lindsay Weaver, SVP Analytics and Research from and Pierre Bouvard, Chief Insights Officer, Cumulus Media and Westwood One. Lindsay, Pierre, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So before we get into your thoughts specifically on Upwave's AI generated reports, hopefully both of you can give some background in your experience with AI. So I'll start with you, Lindsay. From your agency perspective, I was wondering, is AI kind of already part of your company culture, or will its use be part of a sweeping shift moving forward?
Definitely. I would say, AI is certainly already a part of agency culture. From how we present our offering in the landscape to both, current and prospective clients, to how we're training our team members, to the tools built into our agency platform that kind of just helps with, everyone at UM's day to day, right? We know AI is going to continue to proliferate. I'm sure anyone who is at CES can attest to that. And it's really, not just going to be, hey, we have AI, but, how is what we do special or different in the marketplace? And, for us, from the analytics perspective, it's really going to be pushing our analytics team to thoughtfully engage with AI, and really give our team that edge that benefits, certainly the agency and working with our clients, but also our analysts and just growing their skill sets in the long run. AI is probably not going anywhere anytime soon, and it really kind of helps them think about their career path. We've started things like our weekly cross-agency analytics sessions this past year. And part of that time each and every week was, dedicated to team members showcasing how they've been working with AI to solve all kinds of challenges from the technical to the operational. So yeah, certainly already a part of our culture, but I think the size of that role will kind of continue to grow over time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think with, the golden age that George was discussing, there's a mandate, right? For if advertising is going to move into the top 1%, then those who are not comfortable with it or have the ability and skill set to leverage it will almost certainly fall behind. So that's great to hear. You already have a head start. So, Pierre, you have been in the market research and measurement space for years. And when you think generally about the innovations in that space, what do you feel is particularly exciting about new developments in AI?
Yeah, I think if we think about innovation and market research over the last, let's say, 20 years, it's always been about the front end of the process, using the internet to recruit people and, new strategies for sample and this and that. But the actual end use of market research still is a PowerPoint deck. And there's really been, and that's where all the value is. That's where business people want conclusions and recommendations. And there hasn't been really anything that has enhanced or made that easier, over the last 25 years. And so if you think about, all the innovation in market research, none of it business people have really been able to experience. It's always been kind of downstream. So this is the first time we're seeing something useful that an insights professional or a business person could actually benefit from in terms of market research.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've always said that the, sort of the value in making the PowerPoints is not necessarily in the first draft, but it's the collaboration and iteration over time. And so what's kind of exciting to me is the ability to interact with AI that can help you efficiently and smartly move towards that final product. So Pierre, I guess a follow-up question to that is, specifically, how do you think AI generated reports are going to provide more value to your clients and stakeholders?
Well, there's more and more brand work being done, because I think most marketers are kind of waking up that the last 15 years of performance marketing really took advertising kind of the train jumped off the track. And this obsession with performance has caused a lot of brands to actually be destroyed. And you're starting to see marketers, eBay, Airbnb realize that brand building is what drives business success. Brand building is what causes performance marketing to do better. And the stronger your brand, the stronger your results. So, we're kind of getting back to the fundamentals of marketing, which means there's going to be more and more brand studies being conducted. And the insights teams at or anywhere are not, growing as fast. So we need ways to kind of get what are the key findings and what are the recommendations to kind of get to that quicker. And I think what this is going to do, it's like you said, generating the first draft of the deck so much quicker. And my experience with the tool is that it's finding insights that we didn't necessarily have the time to look for. Sometimes we're just looking very top line, Gen Pop, did we grow awareness and consideration? What this deck showed me is that let me show you the sub-segment demographics that actually drove impact. Look at household size. We hadn't thought to look at household size. We didn't have the time. Well, look at the income story. So it unearthed some amazing insights that I don't think we would have ever had the time to look for in preparing a report.
That's great. Yeah, and when you talk about the this idea that the pendulum has sort of swung towards performance, maybe a little too far, we couldn't agree more. And we think that technology in general can bring branding or generating future demand to be captured via performance marketing. We think all of this technology can bring branding into the modern era of marketing. And so there would not have to be a trade-off. And we think sort of the generation of the insights more quickly and efficiently is going to power that. So Lindsay, you've seen Upwave's campaign insights reports already. What are some of your thoughts?
I mean, anywhere, anytime we can work smarter, not harder, we love to see it, right? It's exactly as Pierre was saying, it's a really great starting point. Thinking about that first draft, how much time gets spent on that, and it kind of moves you through that much more quickly. Great starting point for calling out winners, and I guess we don't say loser, maybe winners and laggers, so that we can spend a little bit more time on the why. I feel like everyone says this to all of their clients all the time, but we want to get to the why, right? Certain channels, partners, creatives, whatever it might be, performing, not performing, so that we can then focus on what we can pull in terms of levers from, say, a media perspective, things like reach, frequency, right? It just helps us get to the movement or the action a lot faster, which is ultimately what every single client I think wants to see, and definitely certainly pushes us for on the agency side.
Yeah. And I think both of you mentioned, at this, like having it being a starting point, and our view is at minimum, right? It can give you a tremendous leg up just to get started on where the insights are to be discovered, what paths you can start to follow. And it's just only going to get better over time. Pierre, any closing thoughts from you after having seen Upwave's reporting?
Yeah, oftentimes you're measuring a long-term brand campaign. Maybe it's a quarter, maybe it's 6 months, and the Upwave is working every day. But the exhaustion of the concept of creating a deck prevents you from saying, well, let's take a look. What's happening this month? What's happening this month? Being able to say we can get a fast, quick deck and a fast, quick read on an ongoing campaign and get a mid-campaign look is incredible, especially when it comes to creative. So if we have 2 or 3 different creatives running, we can quickly see maybe one of the creatives is working better, then we can kind of put more weight on that creative. So that I think is super exciting, is that you don't have to dread deck creation at the end. You can be, kind of creating updates as you go through, and you start to get a sense of what the stories are that are developing.
Absolutely. Lindsay, any final thoughts from you?
I mean, it all, I mean, maybe this is the agency side of me, but at the end of the day, it comes back to the value we're bringing to our clients, right? So certainly time saved on building observations and deck iterations. I feel like we've hit on that a couple of times at this point, so hopefully appealing to everybody else too. But spending more time on meaningful optimizations, right? It's great if we can make recommendations, but it really doesn't mean anything unless we can move the needle in terms of what we're putting forth in media or creative, and especially those that result in efficiencies that can be reinvested into media or dollars saved. So there's really kind of that financial aspect right in front of you, right? That all of our clients love to hear. So
Definitely. Well, thank you both for your time and particularly for your expertise and thoughtful responses. We really appreciate it. So I'm going to go back to Chris and George for Q&A.
thanks, John.
Thank you, John and Lindsay and Pierre. That was a great conversation. And thanks to everyone who submitted some questions. We had some great engagement from the audience. So we will dive in. First one I'll take is a tactical one about how someone can sign up for the closed beta George mentioned. So you can have the feature flag flipped on for you. There's a sign up form, which I will put in the Zoom chat. That should be viewable to everyone. If not, we will send that out to all attendees over email. Upwave.com/AI closed beta. We will make sure you all have that link accessible. All right, question about George's 1% theory. So George, I'll pitch this one to you. Won't it become more, if the ads in the future perform as well as today's top 1%, won't it become more competitive for advertisers to stand out? So I'd love to hear your thoughts both on the impact of advertisers and publishers in that world.
I'd say short answer is yes, it will become more competitive, which, as John said, is all the more reason why leaning into AI now is so critical, because if you don't and your competitors do, then you will be facing much stiffer competition, which will put you in a weaker position. The slightly longer answer is I think this is a rising tide lifts all boats type situation for advertisers. If you have a product category where people will only buy one of them ever in their life, then yes, it's a direct race for who's going to get that first sale. But I think a lot of products are not that way. There are a lot of products in the world that I would probably benefit from buying that currently I don't even know exist and don't have the opportunity to buy. So I think more effective advertising is going to give you just the opportunity to get in front of and be remembered by so many consumers who could potentially benefit from your product or service who you're currently not able to break through to with the ads as they are today.
Great. Thank you, George. Next question that I'll let you take, George, but it's about portfolio or portfolio functionality. So John may have a perspective as well. So is it possible, or will it be possible, to use this AI at the portfolio level, multiple study insights from within a single brand?
So today, not yet, but in the future, almost certainly. And it's a great suggestion that I think we will very likely incorporate when we're able to. The great thing about the AI is that it can incorporate as many different data points and pieces of context as we provide it. So yeah, we very much would like to help you contextualize the performance of an individual campaign relative to other campaigns that you've run or that have been run across the industry in similar verticals or similar timeframes.
And related question from another guest, and I love we're already getting feature requests for V2 of this. That's outstanding. Will we be adding a way to use AI to show campaign performance against real-time norms or side-by-side comparisons against past campaigns for the same customer?
Very likely, yes.
Great.
Similar answer to the last one.
Yeah, love it. And then another line of questioning around campaign setup. Can you provide examples of what you'd have to load about a campaign into Upwave to get this output? Is it just some campaign details and target market details?
So from the perspective of the user of Upwave, so of our customers, you don't have to provide anything special. It's just the regular stuff you provide in your campaign creation forms to us to get measurement started is all the information we need to generate these reports for you. If the question is about what we put into the AI, it's basically all the information that you put into the campaign creation form. So it's information about the campaign name, about brands, about competitors, and so on. And I think it likely is the case that the more interesting contextual information that we can feed into the AI, the better a job it can do. Going back to my earlier equation, the more domain expertise you give the AI, the better a job it will do.
Yeah, and I would add to that, there might be a couple of setup for the users of Upwave, a couple of setup aspects that you may not have paid much attention to in the past, that will become front and center when the AI is trying to understand what's important. So the first thing is your primary KPI or objective. And some of you might not even know that when you're setting up, which KPIs you want to measure. You can choose 6. We ask you which is the primary. And so the AI, in the absence of, finding a story across the 6 KPIs, might start to lean on whatever your primary objective is. So that's number 1. And then number 2 is your target audience. And so filling in as much detail about who the campaign is actually trying to reach, again, is also going to help the AI get focused on that aspect. So those are just 2 sort of like tips and tricks to get started and make sure that, again, that first draft is relevant to what you want to learn.
Great. And then moving on to our other questions. Well, this is a good one, maybe a tough one. How does the platform do objection handling for a negative lift, or I'll add to that flat lift or no lift, or maybe broadly speaking, not good results? So I know, John, we have this conversation all the time with customers about human interpretation. So good question about how the AI thinks about bad results, negative lift, flat lift. So either of you have a perspective on that?
Yeah, I can start. It is it does happen that not every campaign performs the way that we want it to. And what we can do with the AI and sort of the language that we can provide it is to provide nice, acceptable ways to describe flat lift, like it maintain baselines, right? So the advertising might have been needed to maintain the existing level, but no matter how you cut it, a flat result indicates an opportunity to move impressions to better performing tactics. And we're going to be focused not only on, hey, was this campaign performing at the overall level, but what was good? What was better or worse within the campaign? Did it have an opportunity to reach more of the target audience? Would that be a good thing? And so the intricacies and the details that provide insight into planning and optimization will be built in. So I think that's the good news, because when you have a campaign that doesn't perform, those are the kinds of insights that you need.
Great.
Very much agree. And just building on that a little bit, I think there's a very strong stitch in time saves 9 thing here. We very strongly encourage advertisers or platforms to look at your reports early, look at your results early. And if you're on track to not get the results you want, then do something about it while you still have a chance. And the best way to avoid having to report negative lift is to avoid having negative lift. And the best way to do that is to make optimizations early.
I agree, and that's helpful commentary. All right, next question, maybe less a question, more of a comment and idea, but I'll share it because I think it's useful. The AI generated results are impressive. It'd be helpful to have a simple summary slide of KPI inputs and a corresponding check or percentage grade of how the results assess, like a check mark or 87%, like a snapshot report card. So I guess not a question, but a great idea. So more suggestions for V2 of this feature, George, that we'll pass your way.
We love all the suggestions. Please keep them coming.
And there was a question for our panelist Lindsay, which I think we're mechanically not able to bring her back, but and the asker was anonymous, but happy to connect you. If you asked that question that was for Lindsay, please email me, chris@upwave.com, chrs@upwave.com, and I'm happy to pass that question to Lindsay if she's able to answer. And the last, looks like the chat feature did not share the link, but we will send an email to all attendees with the sign up link, so you'll get that today. So sorry for the technical difficulties in trying to share the sign up link, but we'll make sure that gets sent out today. All right, I think we addressed, one more macro question that came in about George's view. So we can close with this question. So George, I'll let you take this. How quickly do you think the both golden age and dark age will come? These things happen sometimes more slowly than predicted. So forget if you had specific timeframes you're able to share, but looks like there's a question about that.
Yeah, so I sort of think about these transitions in terms of the AI capabilities that gate us moving from one phase to another. I think the seeds have already been planted and the conditions are already right for the golden age. Like, we don't need any better AIs than the ones we have now to start doing really impactful, really impressive things that are going to pretty dramatically improve how good advertising can be. So, how long? There's certainly going to be a acceleration period where it takes time for these things to fully flow through. But I think even over the next, call it 3 to 5 years, you're going to see concrete and meaningful impact that's going to move us strongly in this direction. The dark age I was talking about, I think, does require an expansion of what AI is capable of before things like AI buyer's agents become really ubiquitous and really useful. It is hard to predict how fast AI capabilities are going to improve, but they have improved pretty dramatically already and are really, I think, going to continue to do so even just over the next couple of years. AI experts talk about something called scaling laws, which is basically they've discovered that with AI models, if you just feed them more data and more compute, they get exponentially better on this really kind of smooth and impressive exponential curve. So the main thing that is preventing AI models from getting even better right now is literally the availability of GPUs to put into data centers. But OpenAI and Google are doing everything they can to get more GPUs so that they can throw more computers at training their next generation of models, which they're almost certainly already training. And as those come out, I don't know if you've all tried the different AI models like GPT-3 versus GPT-4, but Upwave's insights reports are built on GPT-4, which is meaningfully and substantially better at things like reasoning and instruction following than GPT-3 was. I expect GPT-5 will probably come out in 2024 and will probably be another step change over GPT-4. And then probably every year we're going to see fairly dramatically, impressively improved models for the foreseeable future. And so I think it's probably not more than, call it, 5 years away before AIs are good enough to be able to do the ubiquitous research and analysis and personalization that's necessary both for being a useful buyer's agent and for doing much more dynamic and cost-effective and high-quality content generation. So I'd probably put it in the 5 to 15 years range for when the dark age starts coming about.
Good to know. Well, I'm not looking forward to the dark age, but I am looking forward to my buyer's agent, having someone sift through all the products out there and tell me what's right for me. Sounds pretty appealing. All right, those were all of our questions, so that can be a wrap. Thank you to everyone who joined us. Thank you to George and John. Thank you to the very talented Upwavers behind the scenes who made this live event work well. As you all know, live events are hard to pull off, so thanks to everyone who had a hand in that. Big thanks to Lindsay and Pierre for joining us, taking time out of their busy schedules to join us to share their thoughts, not on only this capability, but AI in general. Much appreciated. And thanks to all of you who showed up, and thanks everyone who asked a question. So we'll break. This recording will be available online. So if you had a colleague you wanted to see it, we'll get out the YouTube link for you to share it. Thanks everyone, and we'll talk to you soon.